Hey guys, Ms.Roopa here. I'm going to bring you another lesson on one of probably the most important insects on our planet, the honeybee, okay? There are about 20,000 different species in the world, but we are going to focus in on the honeybee because there is literally so much that we can learn. So let's jump in. So honeybees live in colonies, and inside of a colony, each bee is not an individual, okay? They're not just one bee doing different things on its own, no. Honeybees, their colonies are extremely organized, and each collection of bees has a certain job that they are responsible for, okay? We are going to learn about now the 3 different types of bees that you would find in a honeybee colony. And we're gonna start with what's called the worker bees, okay? For the most part, the worker bees are gonna be those bees that you see flying outside, gathering that pollen, gathering the nectar, and bringing it back to the hive. Another fact about worker bees is that most of these, actually all of the worker bees, are female. Okay, and they have a very, very important job. They forage for that food, that nectar, and that pollen. They build and they protect the hive. They keep it clean. And also they protect the queen. So while they're protecting the hive, they protect the most important bee in the hive, which is the queen bee. And she is actually the one that we're gonna talk about next. So the queen bee is the second type of bee that you're gonna find in a honeybee hive. Now, the queen bee, her main job is to lay eggs, to produce more eggs and make way for the next generation of bees in that hive. Okay, so worker bees, queen bees, and the next type of bee that we're gonna learn about is called the drone bee. Now, drone bees are all male bees, and their only job is to mate with the queen so that the queen can produce more eggs. Once they mate with the queen, that's it. That's their only job, and they actually die. So once they mate with that queen bee, their job is finished and they do die out. So those are the 3 different types of bees that you would find in a bee colony. Worker bees, all female. They have a ton of responsibility. Keep the hive clean, protect the hive, forage for food, all of those things. That's their job. Queen bee is number 2, and her job is to lay those eggs for the next generation of bees for the hive. Okay? Number 3 is the drone bee. These guys mate with the queen to help produce eggs, and then they're either kicked out of the hive or they die. And that is their job. Let's go over real quick the life cycle of a bee. So as with most insects, you're gonna have those 3 stages, the larva, the pupa, and the adult stage. So the queen bee lays 2 types of eggs, okay, in the hive. Those 2 types of eggs are fertilized eggs and unfertilized eggs. So the fertilized eggs can either hatch into a queen bee or they can hatch into the worker bees. And while this is all going on and bees are taking care of these new larvae and these new eggs, they're being fed certain types of things to determine what they are going to turn into, okay? So, like I said, fertilized eggs will turn into the worker bees or the queen bees. Unfertilized eggs will turn into the drone bees. And I just think it is mind-blowing that these insects can feed the larvae different things for them to turn into a certain type of bee that the hive needs, okay? So I'm gonna now show you some beautiful pictures within a hive to give you kind of a better idea of what the inner workings of a beehive, okay? So this is our first picture, and it's really cool because these come with facts that I'm gonna share with you. So this picture right here is a picture of honeybees inside of a honeycomb. So this is a cross section of a honeycomb, and you can see the different kinds of bees that are inside. So worker bees on a natural honeycomb inside of their nest. How gorgeous is that? Okay. The next picture. This picture is a worker bee on a daisy flower. So remember, we talked about the jobs of the worker bees and that they have to go out and forage for food. So this particular worker bee is getting that pollen that's necessary for the hive. Pollen and nectar. This picture is two worker bees and they're accepting nectar from each other. Okay. This picture right here is called scent fanning, and this is an activity that keeps bees in a hive together. So the bee will beat its wings very fast, producing a scent, and that helps other bees to know that, that this is their hive and to kind of keep them all together. So scent fanning. Again, absolutely mind-blowing. Gorgeous. Okay, this picture shows a picture of the queen bee and she is surrounded by some of the worker bees on the honeycomb. So can you guys take a look at this picture and find which one is the queen? Do you see one that looks different? The queen bee is constantly receiving attention all the time from those worker bees. So queen bee is surrounded by worker bees. Now this one, the queen bee is actually marked and the queen bee is surrounded by worker nurse bees. So this means that the egg laying process is about to begin. So you can see here in the red that the queen is surrounded by those nursing bees. And so she is about to start the egg laying process. Another thing about this picture that's really cool, sorry. She inspects the cells by sticking her head into it to make sure that the cell is open and ready to receive that larva. Very, very cool. So this one is a picture of the bee nursery. And you can see the developing broods and the honey right in here. So those are the larvae right there in the cells. And this is also the main stage of the worker honeybees. Very, very cool. And this, probably my favorite picture, 100%. So this is raising the new queen. So this is what the queen looks like in its larva stage, right here. I mean, seriously, how cool is that? So this is a honeycomb containing a developing worker bee and also that queen bee. So a fun fact also about the queen bee. So should something happen to the queen bee within the hive, and if the queen bee is dead, it dies within the hive, the worker bees will help develop a new queen bee. And they will do that by feeding a larva something called royal jelly. So they will pick a larva, they will tend to it constantly, they will feed it this special diet food called royal jelly, and that will help this larva to develop into a queen bee. Ah, so neat. So queen bee and also a larva of a worker bee. Alrighty, our next picture. These are the two stages of a drone bee that is emerging out of its cell. Remember, the job of the drone bee is just to mate with the queen. Here we have the life of the drone bee. So the recently drone bee has emerged. They do play a really important part in the role of the hive to mate with the queen to produce those new bees, that next generation. This is a picture of a swarm of bees on a tree. And it also shows how a colony reproduces. Look at all those guys. And then this is a very special picture. It shows a beekeeper, which if you're interested in becoming a beekeeper, this is probably one of the coolest things that I have seen at my school. We do have beehives, and Miss Cindy Stair, the founder of our school, is extremely knowledgeable in taking care of bees, and she always blows my mind with the facts that she shares about bees. So I am a sponge whenever she gives a lesson on honeybees. So Again, such a cool lesson and such a cool topic to learn about. So this is a picture of a beekeeper, and he is examining those honeycombs in his beehive. But again, such cool insects. And also, not only are they just really cool to learn about, but guys, they're extremely important for our planet and very important that we take care of them. And if you have the capability to have honeybees near your house, go do it. Raise more of these guys to help protect our planet and help protect this species, because there now are unfortunately not a lot of honeybees out there. So I really, really hope that you enjoyed this lesson and that you go out now and research more about these incredible creatures, the honeybees. Okay? So I hope that you will also take a minute and like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Learning with Miss Roopa. And I hope that you guys have a great Thursday.